Shalom. First and foremost, I want to begin by giving up praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Recha Chodash. Double honors to the elders and to the apostle of the millstone, and then our respected brothers out there pushing and spreading the gospel of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, to the focus of the world. Now, through the spirit of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, I wanted to do a quick lesson on this article, which is entitled, She Warns Trump about Extremely Dangerous Risk if Taiwan Issue Mishandled. As you can see, the titles of these many different articles, the White House, or at least the Trump administration, after the meeting between Trump and Xi Jinping, he's making it seem as though they made a deal, right? And that, everything went smoothly, and he's telling a lot of stories. One of them being that China has promised that it would not support Iran if situations in the Middle East got out of control. He also says that China does not support Iran because, they don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons and so on and so forth. So there's a whole lot of stories that the Trump administration is telling right now. But, one thing that they don't really highlight is the fact that when he went over there, he was warned, right? They were warned about America's support for Taiwan. It's been a long time since this issue actually, came, into light. But for a while now, there was this whole thing between America and China, and it's been about Taiwan. There is an important kind of chip that is only manufactured in Taiwan, that isn't manufactured anywhere else in the world. I'm not really sure about the details of that, but whenever the issue of Taiwan comes up, the reason America supports Taiwan is because of this specialized chip that is manufactured in Taiwan. And China has been trying to get Taiwan into its territory, right? Into its underneath its influence or underneath its rule for a very long time. But the reason they've been hesitant is because Taiwan has allied itself unofficially with America. That's why you had this issue where Nancy Pelosi went in there a while back when they threatened her and said that she better not step foot in Taiwan, and she went there anyway. And you've had U.S. Navy vessels gone to the region of Taiwan, as a show of strength. And there's been a whole back and forth between these two countries. And so when Trump went over there and the issue of Iran came up, they pulled an Uno reverse on his ass and told him to leave Taiwan alone, right? And one of the important factor was to not recognize Taiwan as an independent country. And to this day, America has not dared cross that line. So it says, so now Xi Jinping has taken this opportunity to address that matter, and that's what this article is going into. But before we read this article, I want to begin with precept, the book of Joel, chapter 2, beginning with verse 1. And the very first verse says, "Blow ye a trumpet in Zion." The trumpet represents the truth and the qualities of a trumpet. It's loud and it's alarming. And we are alarming Zion, which is the nation of Israel, about the impending doom that is coming upon America, or that is destined upon America. So blow ye a trumpet in Zion, which is what we're doing, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. And let all the inhabitants of the land tremble. That land is America, okay? Because when you apply it to our time, the land that is meant to be a desolate wilderness, that is meant to drink of the cup of the wrath of the Lord, the land that is ought to pay for the blood of the saints, and the land that is to be destroyed for the controversy of Zion, is America, which the prophets of old called Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon, right? And so on and so forth. They've called it many different names: Assyria, Egypt. But whenever these names were mentioned, there was always this unique event that's tied to the downfall of these kingdoms, these ancient kingdoms, that was never exhibited back then, but will be exhibited here in America. And so this is it. This is what we're doing. And so now that the trumpet is being blown with this, with these video epistles and us going into the highways and the byways, what is the message? Well, the first one is this one. Well, the only one. So it says Taiwan was the most important issue in Beijing's relations with Washington. She told Trump as they met at the Great Hall of the People of Beijing, according to state news agency Xinhua, which I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. If handled well, bilateral relationships can maintain overall stability. If handled poorly, the two countries will face collision or even conflict, pushing the entire China-U.S. relationship into a extremely dangerous situation. She was quoted saying, Taiwan independence is fundamentally incompatible with peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait is the greatest common divisor between U.S. and China. And so therefore the U.S. must handle the Taiwan issue with utmost caution, right? In his opening remarks to Trump, Xi almost posed the question of whether China and U.S. could avoid the Thucydides trap, the idea that a rising power and an established hegemony are destined for war, and if the two countries could tackle global challenges together. And this is why the scripture says in the book of Psalms, the 2nd chapter, that they seek to break the cords or the bands or the chains that the Lord has them in. The destiny that the Lord has destined for them or has arranged for them is that they will in fact go to war. They will be gathered into the Middle East and they will destroy each other. And in the midst of destroying each other, Yahushua will come to an arena, and in this arena where war has already begun, they will stop fighting each other to try to fight Yahushua, and Yahushua will end the war once and for all with all might and power. So this is it, right? But they don't want that. They see how far they've come as a human race. They see how far or how much they've built and how much wealth they've accumulated and how much power they've gained, and they don't wish to go to war. They really don't. This is their deepest desire. But at the end of the day, the scripture says that the counsel of the Lord shall stand. That is why he references the Thucydides trap, and I believe he was a Grecian philosopher and historian. But hey, they can't escape it, right? So it says the trap, that it's the idea that a rising power, which is China, and an established hegemony, which is America, are destined for war. And this always happened in history. When you read the book of Daniel, it pretty much laid out the events of this, which is, for example, Assyria, which was an established power, and Babylon, which will be at a rising power, and Babylon rose up and overtook it. Babylon became an established hegemony, and then a rising power, the Medo-Persian Empire, overtook it. The Medo Empire became an established hegemony, and then a rising power, the Grecians, overtook it. The Grecians became a hegemony, an established one, and then, let's look at the word hegemony. Let's do copy. It shouldn't. right, so cultural dominance, so that's power, and so on and so forth, right? After the Greeks and then the Romans, and then yeah, the the ten horns, and it broke it up, and you get the gist. And so they see the pattern, they are aware of it, but they just can't escape it. They come together, they create this peace treaties, and then a few years down the line, somebody f's it up, and then they have to start from square one. And every time something bad happens, they inch closer and closer to World War III. Because if they understood, or if they truly weren't under the influence or the control of the Lord, they wouldn't have created these nuclear weapons. They wouldn't have felt the need to have these destructive weapons, ready, armed and ready, if I may add. And so it says Taiwan is believed to be a focal point of the Xi-Trump summit, as cross-strait relations have remained strained since William Lai Ching-tai of the independence-leaning Democratic Progressive Party took office as the island leader in May 2024. In Beijing, Xi also announced a new framework for relations with the United States, with analysts citing Taiwan as the key influencing factor. Xi said he and Trump had agreed to make the building of a constructive, strategic, stable China-U.S. relationship the new framework for a bilateral relations, and that it would provide strategic guidance for China-U.S. relations over the next 3 years and beyond. So he went over there to China, Trump went over to China, and this is the good news that he has brought to the American people. But of course we know that he's just a fucking pawn in the chess of the Lord. It is not the will of the Lord that these heathens should continue in wickedness and in ignorance. It is not the will of the Lord that these, nations should transfer their power to the saints in a peaceful manner. And it is not the will of the Lord for them to be, for them to not be afraid of the future. That's why the prophets are out there to to shatter any illusion that they can create for themselves. If they should wake up one day thinking that they have a pretty good grasp in the future, we as the men of the Lord must lift up our voice like a trumpet and shake our hands at the gates of the nobles, so that we may remind them of what the true intentions of the Lord really is. And so, this is this article is just to a spiritual man saying that this is the peace between these two nations. It's just impossible, right? And that there's always going to be something that because they have not been able to agree on something for so long, they will never be able to agree on it, and eventually they will fight each other and destroy each other with thermonuclear missiles. So with that, I'm going to end it by giving our praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Recha Kodash, Shalom Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Brakatham. To all you Akim Sadakos that are listening in truth and sincerity, may the blessing of Allah be upon us. And until next time, Shalom.